Coming up on FSU Headlines, nature's nastiest bite is revealed by a Florida State University researcher. Changing lives, an FSU clinic offers help to families facing autism. And happy anniversary! Florida State University celebrates a milestone 70 years in the making. Stay tuned for these stories and much, much more. FSU Headlines starts now. Hello and welcome to another edition of FSU Headlines. I'm your host, Dennis Schnitker. We're broadcasting from the beautiful campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee. Our top story today, new Florida State research reveals the terrible truth about the most monstrous mandibles ever made to munch on mammals and anything else it could sink its teeth into. FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn tracked down Professor of Biological Science Gregory Erickson to talk about the T-Rex and its bone-crushing bite.
We were able to figure out how the muscles in this animal relate to Tyrannosaurus rex. And
Professor of Biological Science Gregory Erickson and his former graduate student Paul Genack have finally determined just how much bite the T-Rex had in its powerful jaws. And as you can imagine, it was a lot.
Well, T-Rex is the most famous animal that ever lived. Everywhere I travel, be it in Mongolia or Africa, whatever, every little kid knows T-Rex. So obviously anything about this animal garners more than its share of attention. The working end of T-Rex is obviously the mouth. This animal had the largest teeth of any dinosaur. The teeth were up to 7 inches long. They were serrated, so they could not only puncture bones, but they could also cut through bones and flesh. And going along with that is this giant head. We called Tyrannosaurus rex a head hunter. It had little tiny arms, so obviously it was using its head to do its business. This animal had a very broad region behind the eyes, and that's where the jaw-closing muscles are. So just from that alone, we knew this animal must have had very prodigious bite forces. But quantifying that's another issue. We're trying to bring to life an animal that went extinct 65 million years ago. The teeth arranged the way they are. This animal could just literally cut through flesh and bone with so much tooth pressure that it would literally explode some of the bones. It could introduce cracks.
The T-Rex could use its jaws to crush and pulverize pretty much anything in its path, using nearly 8,000 pounds of pressure. That's like having 3 small cars dropped on top of any object.
We figured out that it could generate 8,000 pounds of bite force and 143,000 pounds per square inch of tooth-crushing pressure.
But as we all know, the T-Rex went extinct 65 million years ago. So Erickson and company had to be creative in figuring out how the science of the T-Rex's bone-crushing bite actually worked. They used an interesting method to get to the bottom of the bite mystery, and it involves animals still roaming the earth today.
What we did is we turned to alligators and birds. Birds are dinosaurs, and crocodiles are very close relatives of dinosaurs. So we looked at the musculature in these animals, and from that we were able to infer which muscles T-Rex had, and from the skulls we could tell the sizes of these muscles and their basically the leverage points on the jaws that allowed them to generate their bite forces. And then we spent 15 years figuring out how crocodilians work. We tested the bite forces of every species of crocodile. Along the way, we got the world record bite force for a living animal, and that was a saltwater crocodile at 3,700 pounds. And we basically used that model to bring T-Rex to life, so to speak. T-Rex was biting once again after 65 million years. And what we found is that this animal could generate bite forces of 8,000 pounds. That's equivalent to setting 3 small cars on the jaws of this animal. You can imagine the forces involved there. But more importantly, those incredible teeth were going to convey that force to whatever they're biting into, and in the form of pressure. So the force relative to the contact area of the teeth is the tooth pressure, and that's what really matters. That determines whether they could bite through hide or bones and whatnot. And basically what we discovered is T-Rex could pretty much cut through just about anything in its realm.
The idea to study these animals so many millions of years apart took a few years to come to fruition, but it has paid off for sure. But why do this work, and how can it help us learn from the past?
I think the important ramifications of this paper is that we've set up a model where we can test the bite forces, or at least experimentally derive the bite forces of other dinosaurs, and so I think this will lead to a better understanding of feeding in the dinosaurs. Simply because T-Rex generates so much attention, and dinosaurs are our children's first introduction to science. I'd like to think one of the big benefits of this study is that it's going to introduce the scientific method to a small, to the masses, and children will see how the scientific method works and how science allows us to answer intractable questions.
Erickson's research was recently published in the journal Scientific Reports. For FSU Headlines, I'm Mark Vaughn.
Erickson's findings made news around the world with reports from Reuters, The Washington Post, and The New York Times, among others. More science news making headlines. Florida State professor Thomas Albrecht Schmidt's research is paving the way for possible nuclear waste cleanup. Albrecht Schmidt has spent his career at Florida State uncovering new findings about heavy elements like californium and plutonium. His team's latest discovery is showing a chemical process common in lighter elements like iron and nickel is also possible in the heavy element plutonium. This discovery could have future implications for nuclear waste cleanup and storage.
We were able to convince the scientific community that we really had this very basic case of an electron moving back and forth between two plutonium ions. What makes this discovery so interesting is that the material, rather than being really complicated and really exotic, it is exotic in the sense that it's a plutonium compound, but if you looked at the basic buildup, the basic structure, how this compound is assembled, it's really, really simple. And so you look at this and your imagination immediately goes wild and you say, wow, I could make that with many, many other types of linkers between the metal ions. I could use other heavy elements. Florida State, since the 50s, has really been one of the meccas for all things nuclear. And the facility we have allows us to work with elements in quantities that nowhere else outside of national labs can do. So this is a unique situation at a university in the world, and we can do chemistry that very few other people can do.
The research was published in the scientific journal Nature Chemistry. Florida State University recently dedicated a first-of-its-kind research center focused on the study of health care for Native Americans and other indigenous populations. The FSU College of Nursing recently established the Center for Indigenous Nursing Research and Health Equity. It's the first research center of its kind in the world. The center's director, FSU Professor of Health Disparities Research and Cherokee Native American tribal member John Lowe, invited his elder, Chief Jim Henson, to give a traditional blessing during a dedication on the future site of the center. More than 100 nurses from around the world gathered at Florida State to discuss the field's important issues.
What we think about when we're going through this kind of ceremonial process is all of those who came before us and paved the way, and that are, we still feel their strength, we still feel their presence. And so it's very important that we take this time to remember that, and then to honor those who are present, with us and walking this journey with us, and will, from here out.
Well, this is the first Indigenous Nursing Research Center in the world, and so it's a big event. We've drawn researchers from all over the world. They've come here at their own expense, most of them, to celebrate with us this great event. This will be the Center for Indigenous Nursing Research globally.
And still to come on FSU Headlines, going beyond research to make an impact in the community.
I'm telling you, these people are angels for us because, again, it gives us a place to find information.
We'll show you how an FSU clinic with a small staff is making a big difference in the lives of area families. When FSU Headlines continues in a moment.
Florida State gives you the opportunity to do anything you want to do.
I am so grateful to be able to work with some of the best professors in the world.
I will always be a Seminole. This is home.
Florida State made me feel special, and that's the most I could have asked for from a university. Honestly, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't be the student I am today without Florida State.
When
When you buy a Florida State University license plate,
you're not just showing your school spirit.
You're supporting students like us.
In the lab,
in the classroom,
and in the library.
Putting this tag on your vehicle helps Florida State students achieve their dreams. So show your pride. Purchase an FSU license plate today.
Welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker. Florida State University prides itself on being an institution that reaches out into the community. For example, Florida State's Multidisciplinary Center is home to the Autism Spectrum Disorder Clinic. FSU Headlines reporter Cara Irby caught up with the clinic's co-directors and one very thankful mother to talk about the positive impact the clinic is making in Tallahassee and surrounding areas.
Wow, you are a good driver. How did you learn to do that? Wait a minute.
That's FSU psychologist Lauren Hutto, playing with 5-year-old Jasper at the Autism Clinic right now located in downtown Tallahassee. The clinic is housed in FSU's Multidisciplinary Center under the purview of the College of Social Work. Hutto is one of the clinic's co-directors.
The clinic has actually been in operation since 1983, so this center's been here for a very long time.
You know so much.
Jasper was evaluated by the clinic a couple years ago by the center's director and Autism Clinic co-director, Ann Selvey.
We just see a real need in this community and the surrounding communities for services for children, especially kids that may not have means or health insurance. So we're really geared towards serving those small, underrepresented rural districts.
Jasper's family is from Wakulla County, a small area located just south of Tallahassee.
I even just was talking about my husband the other day, like how could we have found a more perfect place to land with this situation? Because again, for us, it would be really easy for us to have gone years without having a clue, like just not understanding what was going on, because it's very nuanced. He's capable enough.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 68 children are being diagnosed with autism, a neurodevelopmental disorder that can cause significant social, communication, and behavioral challenges.
Here at the Multidisciplinary Center, not only are families getting the answers they're looking for, but also the resources they need to help their children continue to succeed.
This one and this one? Yeah, that's exactly right.
The minds are malleable in young adulthood and young childhood, and so the more we can get in and teach those skills so that they have positive interactions with their environment, the more long-term success they're going to have.
And Jasper's family, who call Hutto and Selvey their angels, say he has made leaps and bounds since finding the FSU clinic.
To know that, you can walk in here no matter where you're from or what your background is or what, your job or whatever, that you can come in here and get help is huge.
For FSU Headlines, I'm Cara Irby.
All right, thanks, Cara, for that report. You can learn more about the Multidisciplinary Center and the Autism Spectrum Disorder Clinic by visiting mdc.fsu.edu. A student at the FAMU FSU College of Engineering is garnering national recognition for his work at home and abroad. Junior environmental engineering student David Perez has spent the past 3 summers conducting research and community service projects. Last year, he traveled to India to investigate innovative solutions in the remediation of contaminated drinking water. This year, Perez won a prestigious Udall Scholarship. The Udall Foundation awards scholarships to college sophomores and juniors for leadership, public service, and commitment to issues related to Native American nations or to the environment.
You do all these things, you do what you're supposed to do, and you're rewarded for it, which is, I always think that's funny. Like, you get rewarded for things you're supposed to be doing as a student. Applying for it was huge, and the fact that not many people won it, only 2 people before me won it, that's a bit daunting, right? Because there's so much amazing students here at Florida State, you're like, well, why hasn't anyone else won it? So I prepared all year. I prepared a year for the scholarship. I got it ready. That was great, yeah.
Florida State University recently welcomed National Science Foundation Director France Cordova to campus for a tour of research facilities and to meet with students, faculty, and state lawmakers. The National Science Foundation sends roughly $57 million per year to Florida State University in scientific research grants. Part of that funds the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory, which uses some of the world's strongest magnets to create new materials, develop better energy storage, and even study complex diseases. So this visit was important to showcase what Florida State is able to accomplish with those funds. During her visit, Cordova also met with administrators and faculty from several different colleges, as well as with Governor Rick Scott and FSU President John Thrasher and FSU Vice President for Research Gary Ostrander. Across campus, the world-renowned musicians known to audiences as the Five Browns recently made their way to Florida State for a special performance. The ensemble of 5 siblings performed on the world's finest collection of privately owned Steinway pianos. The pianos belong to Tallahassee entrepreneur DeVoe Moore. Moore's collection of 8 Steinways is housed at the Tallahassee Automobile Museum, which he established in 1996. The Moores are longtime friends of FSU and presented the concert completely free of charge.
You know, you never know when you're touring around the world when you're going to get to come back and see a space again. What's so interesting about this is that you guys went through a whole renovation here. So to come back and see such a beautiful hall, oh my goodness, it's just mind-blowing. And then on top of it, to come back and play a performance with 5 art case Steinways, I mean, that's just unheard of. And it's the only time we've ever done anything like this.
But I mean, how many times in a life do you get an opportunity like this to play on one of these, much less like 5 amazingly beautiful and gorgeous and historic pianos? So it's quite a dream come true. I'm sure we'll be talking about this one when we're, 80, 90-year-old grandparents. Like, it's one of those things you'll never forget.
Before students went home for the summer, there was some serious spring cleaning to be done here at Florida State University. The end of the school year generates tons of unwanted and leftover furniture, clothing, and other belongings. But instead of tossing it all in the trash, Florida State's campus sustainability program makes good use of it during its Chuck It for Charity drive. Check it out.
Start with the easy stuff, like microwaves and plastic bins. Just get them out of here.
Chuck It for Charity is our student move-out program where we collect all the stuff that students leave behind in the residence halls during student move-out in the spring semester, and we collect it all, and then we donate it back to local organizations in support of their work and the people that they help.
Especially on campus, we see students piling everything out by the street, and it gets rained on and it gets just hauled off to the dump. And this is a way that we can recycle it for all of the charities in town. Anything that you can keep out of the landfill is certainly a plus.
We set out bins in each of the residence hall lobbies, and as students have been moving out, they've been donating their stuff they didn't want to take home with them to those bins, and we go around every day during finals week and we collect all the stuff. Lots of microwaves, lots of food, tons of clothing, literally tons of clothing, bedding, towels, all things that should be used next year. But if students don't want to use it, we would be happy to take it and make sure it has another home in our community. So we want to make sure that it's not going to the landfill and that we're being good stewards of our campus, and also just being able to give back to the community in a different way that's a little unexpected, but there's a lot of organizations who use all these items and put them to good use. This is our 9th year, and in those 9 years we've collected over 102 tons of stuff, and in addition to the stuff that the furniture we collected at Alumni Village, and that was about 145 tons. This year we're on track to do, again, 15 tons, 16 tons per year, which is a big scary number, but we manage to get through it every year. And so next year will be our 10-year anniversary, and we'll see what happens.
Florida State University's 4 international study centers and dozens of international study abroad locations offers college students a world of educational opportunities. These students are learning more about joining the ranks of Florida State's world travelers at the university's annual Spring Study Abroad Fair.
Today we're having our Spring Study Abroad Fair. We have one fair in the fall and in the spring each year. So we are out on the Union Green all day. We have tables from all our different locations where we have programs so students can come by and find out more information.
You know, each year more FSU students are choosing to study abroad, helping make the university's international programs consistently ranked as one of the top 15 of U.S. study abroad programs in the country. And still to come on FSU Headlines, the Florida State softball team dominated this season on the way to a super regional showdown. We'll show you a sensational season when FSU Headlines continues in a moment. Welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker. Even though it's summer around here, spring sports are in the final days of play, and that includes the Florida State University softball team. The Seminoles enjoyed one of the best seasons in history, and we're hoping for some hardware to go along with their more than 50 wins. FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn joins us now to give us a recap of the season and to tell us how some of the other sports teams fared this year. Mark?
Hey Dennis, the Florida State softball team came into this season with high hopes, and they backed it up every step of the way, all the way into the Super Regionals right here at Joanne Graff Field. The softball team coming into this year with hopes of making a return trip to the Women's College World Series after returning some of its top talent from a deep run last year. They went undefeated at home this season and won another ACC regular season and tournament title. The Seminoles winning the regional on their way to the Super Regional with SEC power LSU. In the first game, FSU needed stingy defense to pull out a 2-run win, setting up a chance to punch its ticket back to the Women's College World Series in Game 2. But LSU had something to say about that, winning Game 2 1-0. That set up the winner-take-all Game 3, and the bats finally coming alive for both teams. But unfortunately for the Seminoles, they were at the losing end of that one, LSU taking the win 6-4, ending the Seminoles season at home in the Super Regionals. But the overall record still so impressive, 55-8-1 for the Seminoles this year. The senior class going out with some outstanding memories nonetheless. On to baseball. The baseball team looking to join the softball team in postseason success, hopefully going even further this year. First up, the Regionals, after capturing their 7th ACC tournament title and their second in 3 years. The Noles hosting the Tallahassee Regional against UCF, Auburn, and Tennessee Tech. After dropping their first game, FSU with their backs firmly against the wall the rest of the way, needing to win out to win the regional. And win they did, taking Game 2 against UCF 6-1. Then they beat Tennessee Tech in a rematch. That's 5-3 the final there. Then it was a 2-game set against Auburn. They needed to win both those games. And in the first game against Auburn, extra innings they needed to stay alive against the Tigers, and Dylan Busby coming up big in the 9th inning. A triple against the wall to send it to extras. And then the game winner, a hit by pitch, wins it for the Noles as they take that game to send it to the winner-take-all final game on a Monday night. And in the final game, the Noles doing just that, winning the regional with a 6-0 shutout victory over Auburn. A stellar pitching outing for the Seminoles wins the regional for FSU. 4 wins in a row sends the Noles to the Super Regional, right back in Tallahassee against Sam Houston State. And last but not least, on to women's golf and the team playing at the NCAA Championships at Rich Harvest Farms. Senior Lydia Gum carded a 73 in the third and final round and finished in a tie for 57th place in the individual standings. The Seminole women's golf team finished in a tie for 20th place in the team standings. The Seminoles saw one of the top seasons in school history come to a quick close, though, as they were not one of the top 8 teams after 3 rounds of stroke play to advance to the match play portion of the event. They were hoping for a little bit deeper run this season in the NCAAs, but no shame in that. Florida State returns a high-powered lineup, though, for next year with 3 of its top 5 golfers who played in this year's NCAA championships, returning for the 2017-2018 fall and spring seasons. All right, that's going to do it for sports, but remember, you can keep up with Seminole athletics by visiting Seminoles.com. That's going to do it for us. Let's send things back to you.
All right, Mark, thanks for that update. Florida State University's Center for Leadership and Social Change brings a nationally recognized movement to campus with TEDx FSU.
Be call out the wrong, state what is right, but we leave it there. And there holds comfort.
TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and it's a nonprofit organization that began sharing its conference talks online under the slogan, Ideas Worth Spreading. And spread they have, and that includes right here to Florida State University. Organizers at Florida State began the first TEDx FSU in 2010, with university and community speakers discussing the theme Art and Exchange. This year, postdoctoral students, alumni, and current Florida State professors presented talks on psychology, entrepreneurship, neuroscience, and even journalism. They're all geared toward the theme, the gray area.
The TED motto is Ideas Worth Spreading, and so with that motto in mind, we cultivate our own independently organized TED event. So we really want to showcase those ideas that you might not always hear about, might not even know about, that are going on right in your community, on your campus.
Oh, I love it. Just the whole idea of spreading and sharing ideas in itself is it falls in line to what a college and a university is supposed to be, where you're coming into a new space, you're meeting people from all these different backgrounds, and every interaction with someone new is sharing an idea. So to have such a formal setting like this at Florida State, it's an honor, and I'm really lucky to be here at the school.
And you can check out more from this year's event and previous years at TEDxFSU.com. And finally, Florida State University takes time out to celebrate a milestone, 70 years in the making. This year, Florida State University is marking its 70th anniversary. Back in 1947, the university admitted its first male students and changed its name from the Florida State College for Women to Florida State University. And the rest is, as they say, history. The university recently celebrated the milestone anniversary with a special gathering in the Workmeister Room of Dodd Hall. That's going to do it for this edition of FSU Headlines, but you can see more news from Florida State University anytime at news.fsu.edu. It's the official news website of Florida State University. For everyone here at Florida State, I'm Dennis Schnitker. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.